Do you ever catch yourself saying, English is just crazy? Maybe your students come across a tricky word and you tell them, you just have to memorize that one, or this is the part you have to know by heart. But deep down, you know it's still confusing. Here's the truth. English isn't random. It's a wonderfully complex system, and once you understand how that system works, through sound, structure, and meaning, everything changes. That's what Sarah, Paul, and I teach inside Mastering Morphology. This isn't another curriculum. It's deep teacher knowledge inside a practical, comprehensive course that finally shows you how words really work. No more exceptions, no more gimmicks or patching holes with memorization or phonics alone. It's time to go beyond sound it out and give your students the framework they need to truly understand words. So if you're ready to stop guessing and start teaching with confidence, join us inside Mastering Morphology. Enrollment is open now, so we invite you to click the link in the show notes to get started. You're listening to episode 64 of Literacy in Color. Welcome to the Literacy in Color podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Sullivan, a science of reading advocate with over a decade of experience as a reading interventionist and literacy coach. I'm passionate about making evidence-based instruction both effective and engaging. If you're interested in captivating our learners on reading fluently and understanding language, or as I like to call it, keeping it colorful, then you've found the right place. Each week, we'll explore intriguing lit bits and practical strategies around the science of reading and structured literacy to help you be colorful and teach colorfully. Are you ready to bring literacy to life? Let's color outside the lines and make an impact together. I can hardly believe it, but Literacy in Color is officially 1 year old. I launched this podcast on my birthday last year, October 29th, and here we are 1 year later with so much to be grateful for. So thanks to you, in just 1 year, this show is ranked in the top 5% of podcasts globally and typically lands on Apple's top 50 podcasting charts in the category of education, how-to, week to week, and peaking as high as even number 10 on the charts. So please believe me when I say that I truly have so much gratitude for each and every one of you. Every play, every share, every message, this all truly fuels me. And I am a team of one over here. I'm often planning and editing in the wee hours of the night while my 2 little girls are sound asleep. And it's been a lot of work, but it also has brought me a lot of joy. And I hope this show has made a difference in your life as a listener. So my goal has always been to make the science of reading more accessible for educators like you. And if you haven't yet, a 5-star review would be the perfect birthday gift to this show. And if you're able to and would like to support production costs, there's also a donation link in the show notes. To celebrate 1 year, I want to give a special shout out to my top 10 most listened to guest episodes of this year. Dr. Stephanie Stoller, Justin Browning, Lindsay Kemeny, Sarah Paul, Fiona Hamilton with Rebecca Lovelace, Dr. David Kilpatrick, Dr. Molly Ness, Dr. Teresa Bowe, Christina Winter, and Jake Daggett. I'm so thankful for this space where I get to connect with such incredible minds and to bring you such impactful content. And I already have some pretty spectacular guests lined up for the year ahead, so stay tuned for even more stellar content. And this year is also incredibly special to me because it included the laboring and birth of my venture with one of my closest friends and confidants, Sarah Paul, to create Logos Literacy Academy. So over a year ago, Sarah approached me about partnering together, but it was last October that we met in person and truly felt like-minded kindred spirits of a lifetime and said, okay, let's do this. So we released our first course, Mastering Morphology, and are just about ready to launch our K-2 course and curriculum, that takes an integrated approach tying morphology right into phonics and vocabulary instruction to build lexical quality. So big things ahead. And when I was thinking about what kind of content I wanted to provide on this birthday episode, rather than diving deep into one topic, I'm tapping into what's trending. And thanks to my hip, cool Science of Reading bestie, Jessica Farmer, who's always up with the latest trends, a couple of weeks ago, she shared her Science of Reading Betrayal list. So take a look at her page, Farmer Loves Phonics, for that post. And I thought that would be such a fun podcast episode. So today, I'm calling out 12 literacy betrayals. But of course, I won't leave you hanging and just say ick to them. I'm going to elaborate in true podcasting form. So let's get right to it. First betrayal, rebalancing balanced literacy. So believe it or not, schools across the nation are still knee-deep in balanced literacy. Most balanced literacy teachers wholeheartedly believe that they're teaching in a way that promotes the love of reading. And some critics will even say, but we're teaching phonics or we're teaching phonemic awareness, as if the science of reading was only about PA and phonics. But here's the thing, my big ask is if you're teaching phonics, are students reading materials matching the skills that they're learning? Prior to making Tier 1 shifts, the last school I worked at always taught phonics, always. They had their phonics block. But guess what? Kids were put in level texts. And when their Tier 1 instruction shifted to follow the evidence, one of the first things out the window was MSV. But guess what? You can't read a level A book without MSV. It's impossible. So know better, do better. An Instagram friend from Ireland, Jen O'Sullivan from Read Write Jen, recently shared a blog post on her Substack entitled, "There's no right way to do the wrong thing." And I love that sentiment. So let's follow how the brain actually learns how to read and not just hold on to traditions for something that might feel familiar or warm and fuzzy. My second betrayal is memorizing lists of sight words. If kids are still memorizing lists of sight words, we've missed the entire point of orthographic mapping. The goal isn't that we learn words through visual memory. Instant recognition happens through making connections with spelling, sounds, and meaning. And when students can link sounds to spellings and their meanings for instant automatic retrieval, that's when the word becomes a sight word. Words aren't stored like pictures. They're stored like puzzles, and each piece is connected through phoneme-grapheme correspondences linked to meaning or function. So instead of flashcards or saying just memorize it, let's focus on phonemic awareness, decoding, tapping into morphology or history when applicable for trickier words, and lots of meaningful retrieval practice that helps those connections stick. Betrayal number 3, using predictable texts for beginning readers. Notice I said predictable texts and not leveled texts. So leveled texts actually don't bother me. My bookshelf is full of them, but I'm not going to use the level and I'm not organizing my bookshelf by level. To me, a book is just a book. But what could be harmful, though, are predictable pattern books used in the very beginning stages of reading. This one hurts because predictable texts look like they're building confidence. Kids are, quote unquote, reading quickly and they're smiling and they're turning the pages. But what they're actually practicing is guessing. So my older daughter, she could read Brown Bear at the age of 2 or 3, but not because she decoded it, but because she remembered it. They're memorizing patterns. They're not decoding words. And when we give early readers decodable texts aligned to what they've been explicitly taught, we shift the focus from cueing to connecting what they've already learned. So they learn that letters and sounds work together in predictable ways, and not that the first letter alone and the picture are clues. So predictable texts might seem innocent, but they're a betrayal of cognitive science and of our students' future reading fluency. So the fix? We need to give them the code and let them unlock the words themselves. It'll be choppier at first, but at least it's not smoke and mirrors. Betrayal number 4, skipping handwriting instruction. Handwriting is one of those quiet casualties of packed schedules and busy classrooms that often falls by the wayside. But here's the truth. It's foundational to literacy. When handwriting isn't automatic, students spend precious cognitive energy trying to remember how to form letters instead of thinking about what they're writing. This ends up affecting not only spelling, but the composition of longer pieces. If my motor memory can't remember how to form my letters properly, guess who's going to use the word yum instead of delicious in my writing? Explicit, systematic handwriting instruction in the early grades wires the reading brain, and it's about freeing the brain for higher level tasks. So if we want fluent writers, we can't skip the foundational step where they learn to write with ease. Betrayal number 5, too much teacher talk. Active participation is everything. Anita Archer talks about instituting a no hand-raising policy. And it's funny because even when my old school leaned towards balanced literacy, hand-raising was not a thing for us. We always elicited inclusive responses, whether it be structured choral responses, gestures, turning and talking in structured partnerships. This is not new information, but the more I speak with teachers all over the globe, the more I notice that calling on one student at a time or eliciting the responses from a student who already knows the answer is much more common than we may think. And the thing is, if we want to increase the power of our instruction, the very first thing that we need to do is increase the opportunities to respond. Anita Archer says everybody does everything. I just had the pleasure of hearing her speak at the Reading League, live in action, and oh my goodness, highlight of my life, she had us up and moving and responding with her throughout the entire session. She says that when we're eliciting simple responses, there should be 3 to 5 opportunities to respond per minute, not per lesson, not per day, but per minute. And if we only pick on the kids who know the answer, guess who's getting the retrieval practice? It all comes down to equity and access. So let's give all our students the opportunity to be engaged in the learning experience. Betrayal number 6 is saying morphology is just teaching affixes. This might be one of the things I'm most passionate about on this list. People attribute morphology instruction with just teaching a list of affixes, and then we've done our due diligence. The thing is, though, and you've heard me say this time and time again, is that our language is morphophonemic. It's governed by the sound units and the meaning units, and early literacy instruction shouldn't just begin with sound spelling correspondences and call it a day. And don't get me wrong, I'm the biggest advocate for explicit and systematic phonics instruction. However, we also need to teach about these meaning units right from the start, too, alongside of phonics. And this doesn't begin with affixes. This actually begins with the concept of a base. Every word is a base or has a base, and the base holds meaning. I even have a song spoof I actually wrote lyrics to, and I bravely sang it at the Science of Reading Minicon this past summer. And I'm looking to have a friend actually sing and record it for me so I can share it with all of you. But essentially, it's all about that bass, bass. And when we take this base-centered approach, we come to see the same sets of affixes used time and time and time again. So it's not about memorizing lists or memorizing definitions of affixes. It's about seeing how our language is structured and how these structural, meaningful parts come together to create new words. And it's truly the integration of word recognition and language comprehension, which to me is a beautiful thing. Betrayal number 7 is forgetting about language. Some people still reduce the science of reading to just phonics. And that's one of the biggest betrayals of all. Because at its core, the science of reading isn't only about how we crack the code, it's about why we read in the first place. For language, for meaning, for connection. And as Dr. Nell Thompson so beautifully framed it at her Big Sky Literacy Summit, language is everything. When we zoom out, the brain is not built for reading, but it is built for language. When instruction overemphasizes phonics without giving equal weight to oral language, vocabulary, knowledge building, we risk producing decoders who can sound out every word, but struggle to understand what they read. True structured literacy instruction isn't code only. It's code plus conversation. It's read-alouds filled with rich oral language. It's teaching morphology and etymology so words make sense beyond memorization. It's explicit vocabulary instruction that connects words to concepts and experiences. It's sentence combining, oral rehearsal, and opportunities for students to talk about their thinking before they write. It's background knowledge that grows around every new idea. Yes, learning language is a natural process, but our output depends on our input. We can't expect students to comprehend texts filled with words, structures, or ideas that they've never heard before. So we have to teach language in every corner of our day, through stories and discussions, content-rich instruction, meaningful interaction. Phonics helps children read the words on the page, but language helps them make sense of those words. And without both, that reading rope unravels. Betrayal number 8, telling a student with dyslexia to try harder. This one isn't just a betrayal of science, it's a betrayal of empathy. Students with dyslexia are already trying harder than most. Their brains process language differently. Effort alone won't rewire neural pathways. They're already trying harder. They look at their peers who seem to get it effortlessly, and they don't understand why they're not getting it when they're trying 5 times harder. What they need is explicit, systematic, cumulative, diagnostic instruction delivered by a knowledgeable teacher who understands how reading develops. When we imply that they need more grit or practice, we're unintentionally reinforcing this shame and frustration. And the truth is, they don't need to try harder. We need to teach smarter. Structured literacy isn't this drill and kill. It's an act of compassion grounded in science that's proven to rewire the reading brain. Betrayal number 9 is claiming everything we have to do needs to be research-based. So I'll be the first one to say, we need to follow the evidence. That's important. But let's be honest, quote unquote, research-based has become one of those phrases that sounds really good on a PD slide. And at the Reading League conference, Matt Burns proposed that we should reframe our questions. Rather than saying, is this aligned with the science of reading or is this SOR approved? Let's say, is there evidence to support this? Or how strong is the evidence? There isn't research on everything, and not every instructional decision that we make in a school day has a randomized controlled trial behind it, and that's okay. Teaching is both a science and an art. And this betrayal is pretending that science alone can make every decision for us. The antidote, though, is professional judgment. We're 100% using research where it exists and informed observation where it doesn't. Our students aren't lab subjects. They're humans. And the best teachers are evidence-informed, yes, but also responsive, reflective, and willing to adjust instruction based on what they see in front of them. Betrayal number 10 is letting one study make us pivot everything. The science of reading movement is taking the world by storm with the power of social media, and it can be a really beautiful thing. But it does come with its flaws. Anyone can post anything, and suddenly things can become misinterpreted or misrepresented. And I've seen posts on social media stating, oh, this new study came out, and now I have to change XYZ in my instruction. And here's the thing. Science evolves, but it doesn't swing like a pendulum. Science doesn't just flip-flop. One study doesn't rewrite decades of converging evidence. It just adds nuance to it. So the betrayal here is reactionary thinking that we're chasing these headlines instead of understanding the broader body of research. When new findings emerge, our job isn't to panic or pivot on the spot. It's to read critically. We're consulting multiple studies and considering the context. That's how science actually works, slowly and collectively. When studies disagree, it often depends on for whom you're talking about under what conditions. Our classrooms deserve consistency built on evidence and not whiplash from the latest paper. Betrayal number 11 is fighting within the science of reading circles. I hope you see in a year of listening to this podcast that I try to approach everything with kindness. That's one of my core values. No one is going to change by pointing in their face and telling them, you're wrong. And this can be said for balanced literacy versus structured literacy too. But I also see this within structured literacy camps. People will criticize each other. Or in Gillingham's not the gold standard anymore. Use direct instruction. Or Ebley, speech to print is better. Or structured word inquiry is the way to go. We see all of this fighting when the heart of it is, are you developing the skills needed for students to learn to read and to write? And that's the key difference between balanced literacy and structured literacy. Balanced literacy left learning up to chance, while a key principle of structured literacy is explicit instruction. Sometimes our approaches within structured literacy can look different. And I personally don't like to label myself as anything. But I do like to learn about all the different approaches because I think that's what makes you well-rounded and then more informed to make instructional responsive decisions for the students in front of you. Fighting isn't productive, but thoughtful conversations are. And lastly, betrayal number 12 is calling the science of reading a pendulum swing. This isn't a fad or a swing. It's a shift in understanding grounded in decades of research. The pendulum metaphor minimizes the significance of what we've learned about how reading actually works in the brain. We're not swinging from one ideology or philosophy to another. We're integrating evidence. The science of reading isn't a program. A boxed curriculum isn't going to solve your problems. Teacher knowledge is the real lever of change. And a well-trained educator can take any resource and make it meaningful. A script alone can't do that. Implementation fidelity isn't about following every line. It's about knowing why that line exists in the first place. The science of reading is complex, but it becomes simpler when teachers understand the research that underpins it. So we need to invest in teachers first, because programs don't teach kids, people do. And it's about children and their right to effective instruction. And the more we stay rooted in that truth, the more progress we'll see in our classrooms and our profession. So there's my 12 literacy betrayals, and I hope that you can see that every single one of these betrayals comes from good intentions. Teachers want to help kids, but we can't teach what we don't understand. And the science of reading isn't about shaming anyone. It's about growing in our practice together. And after 1 year of literacy in color, I've learned this. The more we bridge evidence with empathy, the brighter literacy becomes for everyone. So here's to the next year of learning and leading and lighting the way together, one colorful conversation at a time. Thank you so much for tuning into Literacy in Color. I hope today's episode left you feeling both inspired and equipped with something new to add to your teaching toolkit. If you're enjoying this podcast, it would truly mean so much to me if you'd leave a 5-star review. It helps other educators find the show and join our colorful community. And don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. For more tips, tools, and resources, be sure to check out the links in the show notes at michelleandthecolorfulclassroom.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week. Until then, be colorful and teach colorfully.